The Shadow Man. When Sarah was a little girl, she used to see a shadowy figure in her bedroom at night. She couldn't make out any features, but she knew it was a man, and he always stood in the corner of her room, watching her. She told her parents about it, but they dismissed it as her imagination. As Sarah grew older, she thought she had outgrown her fear of the Shadow Man. But one night, when she was home alone, she saw him again. This time, he was closer, and she could make out the shape of his body. He was tall and thin, with long arms and fingers that reached out toward her. Sarah tried to scream, but no sound came out of her mouth. She felt paralyzed with fear as the Shadow Man moved closer and closer. Finally, with a burst of adrenaline, Sarah managed to break free from the fear and run out of the room. She never saw the Shadow Man again, but she was haunted by the experience for years. She later learned that the house had a dark history. A man had died there under mysterious circumstances, and some believed that his spirit still lingered in the shadows. To this day, Sarah can't shake the feeling that the Shadow Man is still out there, watching and waiting for his next victim. Years passed, and Sarah had managed to put the memory of the Shadow Man to the back of her mind. But one day, she received a call from her childhood friend, Kelly. Kelly told her that she had been experiencing strange occurrences in her home, similar to what Sarah had experienced as a child. Kelly described seeing a shadowy figure in her bedroom at night, and feeling like she was being watched all the time. Sarah was skeptical at first, but as Kelly described the Shadow Man in more detail, she realized that it was the same figure that had haunted her as a child. She knew that she had to help her friend, so she decided to visit her and investigate the strange occurrences. When Sarah arrived at Kelly's house, she immediately felt a sense of unease. As they sat in the living room, Sarah noticed that the air felt thick and heavy, and the room seemed darker than it should have been. Suddenly, they both heard a strange noise coming from upstairs. It sounded like footsteps, but they couldn't see anyone there. Sarah and Kelly slowly made their way up the stairs, their hearts pounding in their chests. As they reached the top, they saw the Shadow Man, standing in the hallway. He was darker than ever before, and seemed to be moving towards them. Sarah could feel the fear creeping up on her again, but this time, she was determined to fight it. With a burst of courage, Sarah stepped forward and shouted, "Who are you? What do you want?" The Shadow Man stopped in his tracks, and Sarah could feel a strange energy emanating from him. Suddenly, she realized what was happening. The Shadow Man was not a ghost, but a manifestation of her own fears and anxieties. As she looked at him, she felt a sense of clarity. She knew that she had to face her fears head-on, and confront the things that had been holding her back in life. With a deep breath, Sarah took another step forward, and the Shadow Man dissolved into nothingness. From that day forward, Sarah was no longer afraid of the Shadow Man. She had faced her fears and conquered them, and she knew that she could overcome anything that life threw her way. The memory of the Shadow Man still lingered in the back of her mind, but she knew that it no longer had power over her.